Aloha. Thank you for joining us here at TruthMadeEasy.com as we continue with our Apologetics Made Easy video training course. In this video, we're going to be discussing another proof for the existence of God, the teleological argument, design of the universe, as we work our way through our 5 points here in our 5-point hand illustration. Point 1, of course, is God exists. Point 2, miracles are possible. 3, the New Testament is a good history book. 4, Jesus is God. And finally 5, the Bible is the Word of God. We're presently on point 1, proving that God exists. A reminder, we're using for our text the book I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist by Norman Geisler and Frank Turek. In the book, Geisler and Turek provide us with 3 good arguments for the existence of God. We've already covered the first argument, the cosmological argument, in previous videos. The cosmological argument can be simplified to say if the universe had a beginning, it had to have a beginner. Argument number 2 is the teleological argument, which says that both the universe and life display evidence that they were precisely designed. Since they were designed, they had to have a designer. Argument number 3 is the moral law argument, which tells us that since we all have the moral law within our hearts, some call it conscience, which helps us to know right from wrong, since we have this moral law within us, someone must have put it there. There must be a moral lawgiver. As we've already seen in our last video, there is strong, convincing evidence that the God of the Bible is indeed the beginner of the universe. Well, in this and future videos, we'll see that the God of the Bible is also the designer and the moral lawgiver. With the cosmological argument completed, it's now time to move on to our next argument, the teleological argument. The images you see here will make more sense later as we work through our sides. Now, there are 2 parts of the teleological argument: the design of the universe, which we'll be covering in this video, and part 2, the design of life, which we'll cover in our next video. We'll begin our study of the teleological argument by looking at the 2 types of causes that cause anything to come into existence. Here we have 2 rock formations, Mount Rushmore and the Grand Canyon. We ask the question, what caused these rock formations to look as they do? Well, when you stop and think about it, there are only 2 possible causes for anything: intelligent causes or unintelligent, or what we could call natural causes. An intelligent cause is something caused by a being possessing intelligence, one that thinks, reasons, etc. A natural cause are those things caused by the forces of nature, such as wind, gravity, hot and cold temperature, earth movement, earthquakes, things like rain, snow, hail, evaporation, oceans, animals, volcanoes, and so on. There are more, of course, but you get the idea. Now, up on the top, you see the image with the blue, brown, and green arrows? Well, we're going to be using this image throughout the course to represent nature and natural laws. So, when you see it, think nature and natural laws at work. Here again is Mount Rushmore. What caused the faces of the presidents that we see here? Was it nature at work? Wind and erosion? No, it wasn't natural laws. You know that intelligence was behind these rock sculptures. How do you know that? Did you see someone chiseling the stone? Probably not. Yet you can say with a high degree of certainty that natural laws didn't do it. And you'd be right. Why? Because you've never observed or heard of nature creating sculptures like this in stone. You have only seen people, intelligent beings, create sculpture or works of arts that have the appearance of design. By the way, without realizing it, you just applied the principle known as the law of uniformity when you concluded that Mount Rushmore had an intelligent cause. With the law of uniformity, we assume that things in the past, things we didn't personally witness, things in the past have a similar cause to things we observe today. Since you know that sculptures are caused by intelligent beings today, you conclude, using the law of uniformity, that sculptures from the past were also created by intelligent beings. Now here's the Grand Canyon. How did this carved-out rock formation come to be? Did it have an intelligent cause? Maybe lots of people using chisels or jackhammers to form it? No, it's not an intelligent cause. Common sense tells you that natural laws created the Grand Canyon, even though you didn't personally see the Grand Canyon being formed. How do you know this? Because we see nature and erosion doing the same type of thing today. So you rightly assume that nature and erosion did the same thing in the past. Again, you concluded this by applying your common sense, or the technical term, the law of uniformity. How about the Earth and the universe? Are they the result of an intelligent cause or natural laws? Now, we know that no one was around to see how the Earth and universe were caused, so we must again apply the law of uniformity. As we do, we will discover in the slides ahead that the evidence indicates that our universe and Earth did indeed have an intelligent cause. The same with all life forms here on Earth. Were they caused by nature at work, or do they exhibit evidence of intelligent design? Again, we'll discover in our next video, by applying the law of uniformity, that life on our planet exhibits strong evidence of intelligent design. Okay, let's get started on part 1 of our teleological argument, the design of the universe. Here in the slide we see the images of a golf ball and the Earth, along with an image of a space shuttle. Now if you look closely, you'll also notice a small faded Earth kind of superimposed at the base of the space shuttle. You see that? Well, these images tell the story of the teleological argument for the design of the universe. Looking at the golf ball and Earth side by side, we're reminded that just as there is strong evidence that a golf ball is designed and had a designer, there is strong evidence that the Earth has been designed and has a designer. As for the image of the space shuttle and the superimposed Earth, this is a visual cue to remind us that just as the space shuttle has just the right conditions to support human life as it travels through space, so the Earth has just the right conditions to support life as it travels through space. These images will all make better sense as we go through our slides. Now imagine for a moment that you're hiking along the trails of Haleakala on Maui with a friend when he points out a small white object in the distance. I've enlarged and pointed it out here for illustration purposes. Now, all around this white object are other kinds of cool-looking rocks with different colors. But this white object, well, it seems to really stand out from the rest. Your friend runs ahead of you and picks it up. As you catch up to him, you see that he's all excited and acting as if he's discovered something very unusual. You ask him, "What is it?" He responds, "It's incredible, that's what it is. I never thought that something like this would ever come from a volcano. Isn't nature amazing?" "What is it?" you ask, looking now at his hand, which he's clenched, hiding the white object. When he opens his hand, you see that it's not some cool-looking lava rock. It's a golf ball, an everyday white golf ball. Now, of course, your friend is playing with you because everyone knows that nature, volcanoes, lava, the wind, heat, and other elements of nature have never been observed to create anything like a golf ball all by itself. A round, symmetrical golf ball containing hundreds of precisely designed dimples. You come to this conclusion how? By using good old common sense. Even though you weren't around to see the golf ball being made or being put there in Haleakala, using the law of uniformity, you rightly assume that something with this kind of precise design had to have been designed by some intelligent being. Well, as we're going to see, the Earth, or what we'll call the Earth ball, is like the golf ball. They both display evidence of amazing design. Just as common sense tells us that the golf ball was not the product of nature and natural laws, the evidence that we'll see in the slides ahead will lead us to conclude that the Earth ball and our universe were also not the product of nature and natural laws. If the golf ball requires intelligent design, the universe and the Earth ball also require intelligent design. Now let's look at the formal teleological argument. It states, number 1, every design had a designer. 2, the universe has highly complex design. 3, therefore the universe had a designer. Now we know that number 1 is true from our own observations. Something designed, like the golf ball, requires a designer. As far as number 2, if it can be proved, and it can, as we'll see in this video, if it can be proved that the universe has highly complex design, then the conclusion number 3, that the universe had a designer, will naturally follow. By the way, the word teleological comes from the Greek word telos, which means design. Let's begin to look now at our amazing planet and the universe. From scientific studies, it has been determined that there are over 100 precise constants that make human life on Earth possible. This is known as the anthropic principle. Anthropic means that it relates to humanity. When we study these constants, we will discover that the universe was precisely designed in just the right way so that man can survive on planet Earth. Now, there are 122 anthropic constants in all. We're just going to be looking at 11 of those and kind of zipping through them pretty fast. If you're interested in learning more, I suggest you check out Chapter 4 in the book, Divine Design. Let's begin by looking into space. We have to remember that the Earth is located within the confines of a cold, hostile, and lethal universe. Our planet is really nothing more than a tiny little speck in a universe that's estimated to be about 90 plus billion light years wide. Since we've never spent time ourselves out in space, it's easy to take the life-supporting conditions we have here on Earth for granted. We must remember that space is deadly. Astronauts would be unable to survive for even a few minutes outside of their spaceship or their space suits. Inside the shuttle or the spacesuit, the conditions are just right with just the right temperature and just the right mixture of air. When you think about it, we're traveling through space in that same deadly environment as the space shuttle, yet the Earth has no giant space shuttle walls around it to protect us, and no spacesuits to control the mixture of air we breathe. So the question is, how do we survive? Well, in the slides ahead, we'll find out. Now check this out. When a space shuttle is in orbit and traveling through space, it's moving at about 17,000 miles per hour. Pretty fast, huh? But did you know that right now, you here on planet Earth are also traveling through space at a very fast speed? Any guesses on how fast? Well, I'll give you a hint. It's faster than the space shuttle. That's right. Right now, the Earth shuttle is traveling through space at about 67,000 miles per hour. That's right. Space shuttle 17,000 miles per hour, Earth 67,000 miles per hour. What's even more amazing is that the Earth doesn't have rocket engines to propel it. So what makes it possible for us to travel so fast through space day after day? The sun. That's what. Our planet Earth is propelled through space by the super strong gravitational force of the sun tugging at us. Now what's interesting is that if the gravitational force was altered by even a little bit, less than 1%, less than 0.00000, well, you see all the numbers there on the screen, all those zeros followed by a 1%, alter the gravity by just that small amount, and there would be no sun, and there would be no us. In addition to this, the sun's gravity must be precisely balanced by centrifugal forces. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to maintain our elliptical orbit. So the Earth is zipping through space, orbiting around the sun at about 67,000 miles per hour, like a spaceship, with no engines and no spacesuits. That's right, no spacesuits. So how are we able to breathe? We can breathe without spacesuits because this universe of ours has been designed and fine-tuned in such a way that the conditions here on Earth are life-supporting, just like those on a space shuttle. In fact, I like to think of Earth as zipping through space aboard a giant space shuttle. And like a space shuttle, we have just the right mix of oxygen, nitrogen, and all the rest that enables us to breathe without having to walk around the planet wearing spacesuits. Imagine what life would be like if we had to wear spacesuits all the time. I could just hear a mother in the morning. Kids, don't forget to check your oxygen levels before leaving for school. Billy, where's your helmet? Did you leave that in the closet again? No, we don't need to walk around in spacesuits because we have just the right mixture of air to survive without them. Oxygen makes up 21% of our atmosphere. If it were 25%, fires would erupt spontaneously. If it were 15%, we would suffocate. We also need the right amount of carbon dioxide. Too much would create a lethal greenhouse effect and killer heat. If there was too little, the plants and trees wouldn't have enough CO2 for photosynthesis. You recall from biology class, plants take in CO2 and give off oxygen that we humans breathe? Well, with levels too low, we would suffocate. Another constant is the Earth's 24-hour rotation. If longer than 24 hours, temperature differences would be too great to support life. If the rotation was slower, wind speeds on the planet would be too high. And then there's the moon. Did you know that the Earth needs help from its travel companion here as it circles the sun? Yes, this little guy, the moon, helps to keep our rotation in check. It also has a positive effect on our ocean tides, and it helps stabilize the axial tilt of the Earth, which happens to be exactly 23.4 degrees, an angle that is just right. Alter that tilt angle, and surface temperatures on the Earth would be too extreme for life. Then there's our neighbor planet down the road a bit, the planet Jupiter. Jupiter is big, real big. In fact, it's 2.5 times larger than all the planets in our solar system combined. You see the Earth down there on the bottom left? That's how small our planet Earth is compared to Jupiter. Now, because of its size, Jupiter's gravity, well, it draws comets and asteroids to itself, space material that might otherwise strike the Earth. So we like to think of Jupiter as being a very good cosmic vacuum cleaner. And then there's solar radiation. We often hear about the ozone layer and the atmosphere. While we do need the sun and its solar radiation, it must be in just the right amounts. If the atmosphere through which solar radiation passes was less transparent, we wouldn't have enough. If the atmosphere was more transparent, we would be bombarded by solar radiation. That would not be a good thing. We would experience much more than just bad sunburns. Another anthropic constant involving our atmosphere is the water vapor level, which is just right. Too much would make the temperature on the Earth too hot for human life, too little water vapor, and we would freeze. Another anthropic principle is the distance between the stars, which is about 30 trillion miles. Now, if the distance were different, it could affect the orbit of the planets. Now, how far is 30 trillion miles? Well, perhaps this analogy will help. Imagine this. You're in Jerusalem at the time of Christ. It's about 2,000 years or so ago, and after listening to Jesus preach the Sermon on the Mount, you hopped into a space shuttle and then started to travel from one star, let's say our sun, to the next star, an average distance of 30 trillion miles. And let's say you were cruising along at 17,000 miles per hour, 5 miles per second. Do you know that you still would not have reached that other star? In fact, you would only be 1/100th of the way to that other star. Meanwhile, the kids are in the back of the shuttle crying all the way, "Are we almost there, Dad?" When you finally get to the other star, it would have taken you, listen to this, 201,450 years. Now, when you consider that there are over 100 billion stars in just our Milky Way galaxy alone, and that there are literally billions of other galaxies with billions of stars of their own, and it takes 200,000 plus years just to travel from one star to another, you realize just how incredibly big and awesome this universe really is. If you were to count all the stars in the entire universe, the total would roughly equal the number of grain sands on the beaches of Lanikai, Waikiki, Makaha, Kapalua, and every other beach in Hawaii, as well as every other beach throughout the world. That's right. The number of stars is roughly equivalent to all the grain sands on all the beaches on planet Earth. The number is mind-boggling. And yet, God calls each and every one of those billions of stars by name. He told the prophet Isaiah, "Lift your eyes to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls them each by name." By the way, if you're interested in knowing the number of galaxies and stars in our universe, according to Wikipedia, a reasonable option is to assume 100 billion average galaxies and 100 billion stars per average galaxy. You know, if you ever wonder about how much God loves you, look up to the heavens on a clear night and consider Psalm 103:11, which tells us, "For as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is his love for those who fear him." When you realize that the average distance from one star to another is about 30 trillion miles and that there are billions and billions of stars, from our perspective, the heavens are virtually infinite. And so is God's love for us. It's infinite. It's beyond measure. Well, we better stop here or we'll just keep going with these anthropic constants. Let's quickly summarize those 11 constants that we did look at. Again, these finely tuned conditions can be likened to the conditions found on a space shuttle which, like Earth, is hurtling through the deadly conditions of space. The anthropic constants that make this possible include the sun's gravity, centrifugal force, the precise levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide, and the Earth's 24-hour rotation. In addition to that, there's the Earth-Moon interaction, Earth's 23-degree axial tilt, Jupiter cosmic vacuum cleaner, the atmospheric transparency, atmospheric water vapor, and the average 30 trillion mile distance between stars. That's just 11 now of the over 100 anthropic constants that make life possible for us here on Earth. Now, what do you think the odds are that these constants just happen by chance? Well, Norman Geisler and Frank Turek comment on this in their book, and I quote, "Astrophysicist Hugh Ross has calculated the probability that these and other constants, 122 in all, would exist today for any planet in the universe by chance, in other words, without divine design. His answer is shocking. 1 chance in 10 to the 138th power. That's 1 chance in 1 with 138 zeros after it. There are only 10 to the 70th power atoms in the entire universe. In effect, there is 0 chance that any planet in the universe would have the life-supporting conditions we have unless there is an intelligent designer behind it all." So back to our earlier slide of the golf ball. We saw that the golf ball was not a product of natural laws. Wind, rain, erosion, volcanoes, and other natural laws have never been observed to create a round, symmetrical golf ball containing hundreds of precisely designed dimples all by itself. So we concluded that the golf ball had to be a product of intelligent design. Here we see the golf ball alongside the Earth ball. After looking at the evidence found in the anthropic constants, we see that the Earth ball, like the golf ball, has evidence of design. So what are we to conclude? Well, let's go back to our original slide with the formal teleological argument and look at that again. Number 1, every design had a designer. Well, we know that number 1 is true from our own observations. Something designed like the golf ball requires a designer. So we'll check that one off. We can also check off number 2, the universe has highly complex design based on the anthropic constants we just learned about. Therefore, number 3, the universe had a designer, is the correct conclusion that naturally follows the first 2 premises. So who or what is this designer? Well, when you get right down to it, either someone designed the Earth ball and universe, or no one designed the Earth ball and universe. Which view do you think is more reasonable? Which requires more faith to believe? Sadly, despite the strong evidence of design, many today still reject the notion of a designer. And why is that so? If you were to ask most anyone, do you think that this here, the surfboard, do you think that someone or no one designed the surfboard? What do you think they'd say? Well, they'd say someone, of course, a shaper skilled at his craft. Even though they didn't see someone actually creating the design, common sense tells them that someone had to design the surfboard to look as it does, with its fin on the back, its rails that slope down to cut into the water when making turns, the thickness is just right, there's the length of the board. All these things have been designed to make the surfboard function at top efficiency in certain size waves and conditions. So when we look at how finely tuned and designed our universe and Earth are, there's no other logical conclusion. Common sense tells us that they too have both been designed by a designer for top efficiency. This is the work of the best shaper of all, the grand shaper, the grand designer. Well, that'll do it for part 1 of the teleological argument. If you thought the evidence for the design of the universe was strong, wait till you see the evidence for the design of life. We'll be looking at that next in our video, The Teleological Argument, Design of Life.